Welcome. Before we get started, so again, raise your hand if there's a seat next to you. There you go. If that's helpful. Who has not been to this session, this room this morning? Great. My name is Rosanne Marmor. I was doing resident services at Home Forward and at Reach for many, many years, and now I run the peer learning group that meets monthly. And I'm also a therapist and a consultant contractor and I'm a contractor for Housing Oregon, which is why I'm here today.
I'm Zahra Pike, Program Supervisor with Home Forward. My little crew in here. I've been doing services in the helping profession for a good 25 plus years, since 1994, if you want to get technical. But now I work on child and family properties. Most of my background was working with unhoused folks. So that's a little tidbit about me.
So what we're going to do today is talk about partnerships, collaborations and partnerships. And I created a handout that was in orange for all of you on the agenda, but I made a mistake, and so I took them all back. So I'm going to tell you what it is we're going to talk about, because agendas are quite important. And then for those of you who haven't been here in the morning, all the PowerPoints, all the information, all the agendas that are correct will be on the Google Drive for you all to access. So don't feel like you have to rush or take notes or not pay attention or be in the room. Everything will be there for you as you need. So today we're going to talk about basically internal partnerships that you have and external partnerships that you have, because you're doing kind of both, and sometimes we don't think about the internal ones. So we're going to spend some time learning a little bit about what that is. And then Zahra is going to talk about how to navigate and have strategic partnerships with different constituents in your neighborhoods or areas. Okay? So first, what I'd like you to do is, there's a lot of people in the room, and so the way I'd like to organize this is that we're going to take this part of the room right here and the back, and you all are going to make lists of what does resident services do. And when you do that, I want you to think about partnerships, the collaborations, the people you interface with, okay? So what's the role related to your constituents, your partners, your discipline, your team, okay? And I want this part, this table, and this section to think about, what does property management do? What's the job of property management? Okay? This table and this table, the two of you are going to write down, what does maintenance do? What are the jobs that maintenance does? And how do you interface or work with, how does maintenance work with you? How does maintenance work with property management? How does property management work with maintenance? And what I know I'm going to hear is, we have a third-party property management company. We don't work with each other. If that's true, what do you do? And if you don't know what you do, what should you do? What is the, in social work, we call the miracle question. If it worked, if it was the perfect collaboration, what would it look like? Okay, so does that make sense? I'm going to say it again. What does resident services do in terms of collaborations? This section right here. What does property management do? Right here. This section. And these two tables, what does maintenance do? And I'm going to give you 5 full minutes to write it down and kind of talk to each other, okay? 2 more minutes. All right. Why don't we come back to the room? So finish your thought. So I would like to have 3 volunteers who will write for me. So one over there, one person over there, and one person over there. Do I have anyone who's willing to write for folks? Thank you. You get to pick any color. There we go. Anyone else? I need 2 more folks. Thank you. She's got it. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to start with resident services. This is low-hanging fruit, okay? I'm throwing you a softball, okay? So, tell me your name.
Riley.
Thank you, Riley. We want to fill that page with things that resident services does in terms of partnerships. So what goes on there as it relates to maintenance, property management? No, I saw that. Let's call him out. Why don't you go first, though? Yeah. Wait. I want to. Zoom people, this is for you.
We connect to services and resources. Oh, you're going to make your writing big so that it fills the paper really fast, huh?
That's right. You did it right.
Did you have a bunch? Do you want to call out?
I mean, I can go down the list unless there's somebody else who wants to.
Yeah, we collaborated.
We collaborated
We
as a
did.
table to come
We
up with
did.
this list.
Great. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay.
So as it relates to property management and maintenance, partnership that you're doing with them.
I have communicate with management and maintenance.
Meetings.
Lots of meetings.
Policy writing.
Yeah, yes, we give input on policies. And we manage partnerships with community partners. Eviction prevention and aging in place.
I'm going to give it to another person. Wonderful. So basically, what I like about so far is that when you bring partners into your property, it's good to tell property management, right? It's helpful. Sometimes in some of our organizations, maintenance is the one that sets up your chairs for you in your community room. So it's kind of important to let them know, right? Remember, in the confidentiality thing we talked about, need to know, it's true here too. What do people need to know to do the best job they can do? Any things here that you want to add to what Resident Services does?
Maybe recognizing when they're doing a good job, the maintenance, because they feel proud of what they're doing, and they'll do it better every time.
I love that. One of the things I've learned is that when somebody works on my home, they want to show it to me. They want to show me the work they did. And it's nice to be able to say, wow, that was amazing, thank you, right? So sometimes our residents don't do that. They forget, or it feels like it's their right to have their things repaired. That's true. But we do get to say thank you, right? Offer up gratitude. Anyone else? What does Resident Services do? They work as mediation. They do mediation. So property management might say to you, something's going on with two people, and you might come in and start helping, or get a community partner to come in and do that. When we did the Post-it exercise, mediation was one of the biggest things on here that's needed. It sounds like it actually should be a topic. When I started at REACH, I did a 1.5-week long mediation training to become certified as a mediator. And then realized that Resident Services should never do full-on mediation like that. We've come a long way. Anyone else? Anything else in Resident Services? Wonderful. So coordinating community activities, and again, with property management. No surprises. Property managers don't like surprises. Yeah. If people did more mediation, they'd need less meditation. They'd need less mediation, actually. But advocacy, absolutely. So advocacy often it comes from knowing what's happening in your property. Your property manager will say to you, 20 people got a lease violation for hoarding. And then you get to think about, what are you going to do inside your community? What was the term? Vertical village? Vertical village? What do you do inside your community to work on that, right? Okay, what about property management? So property management tables were over here, correct? Is this right? What'd you come up with? So that would be, I'm going to have you do property management. Thank you. I'm sorry? They are amazing. In terms of partnerships, what do property managers do? In terms of collaboration and partnerships, besides lease enforcement, which is, it is collaboration because you collaborate with your asset manager to do that. You collaborate with fair housing. So lease enforcement does have partnership connected to it. What else does property management do in concert with resident services or maintenance? Yeah. Inspections, yes, yes. So at REACH, we instituted pre-inspection. So resident services would go in before property management and find out what was going on and try to fix it before property management came in. And what's nice about that is we knew we were to do that because property management told us. They told us who was going to need the help, right? Did you have another one? No? Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Collecting rent, conducting intakes, giving out notices and violations, handling complaints, reasonable modifications, coordinating with resident services.
Awesome. Great list. So I like doing resident, you said modifications, but you mean reasonable accommodations? Is that what you mean? Yeah. Yeah, so reasonable accommodations are a wonderful example of how property management partners, because they have to kind of do some fact-finding in order to make sure that they can do the accommodation, right? What else? Yeah. Security. Security has got a lot of people connected to it. So, and I want to say, property management reports up, and when they report up, a need is known and something is done about it. The same is true for you. You report up, that's how people know there's a need, and ideally, the more you report up and you keep doing it, it's also called managing up, you end up maybe getting services or attention for the need you have. Yes? Tell me about a reasonable modification. This is,
Someone needs, like, they have a disability and they need handles put in the bathroom.
great. I think of that as an accommodation, reasonable accommodation. They're the same, but I think, to me, they're the same. I don't know if there's different terms. Ramps, yep.
They work with third-party vendors for any types of property, anything that's broken, or say there's broken benches, or replacements, or a dog park that needs to be repaired, what enhancements to the property. So it works in coordination with the coordinator.
So your laundry. So if I want to get free laundry for everybody in the building because of bed bugs, I got to go to property management to get that to happen. Okay? Or I can make slugs. You know what a slug is? It's a little piece of metal, looks like a quarter, and you stick them in there. We used to do that when we were kids. That shows you where I'm from. Okay, let's do maintenance. So with you two, if you want to sit down, you can. Thank you. So maintenance, who does maintenance partner with? Property management and coordinators for some folks. That's right. What do they do? What's the partnership part of what they do? They're turning over units. They're partnering with the residents, right?
Well, they need good communication to be able to interact with each other.
So what she said was they need good communication to interact with each other and with residents and with property management and with resident services. They're our eyes and ears. Yeah. Right. So they're reporting what's happening that they're seeing publicly or in a unit. They also know where to get the right plumber, the right painter, the right person who's going to put the shelves up correctly so the resident can actually reach them rather than too high. They actually understand universal design better than almost any of us. Okay? And universal design is what saves a person, saves their housing. In order to age in place or age at home, you need maintenance. You can't have your residents age in their home properly if you don't have a maintenance team who actually can answer the call, whether it's they're calling somebody to do it or they're doing it themselves. Okay?
For some of our properties, our maintenance team has the longest relationships with our residents. They know our folks better than a lot of coordinators. We have folks that have been with our agency for 25, 30 years. Yeah.
I call them our first responders. I call them my first responders. They see the individuals, they know when they're starting to struggle or they're starting to slip sooner. They're the head of the complaint department for most properties. They're the first person that gets complained to. They're just there more often. They're there after hours, so they're the first responders that are there dealing with the emergency components.
Well put. Yeah, I'll hand out those.
So right now, we're going to have somebody hand out, Zahra is going to, some random person is going to hand these out. This is a document that Zahra worked on around how the collaboration can look between resident services and property management. So when I was telling Zahra when I was at Home Forward, the head of property management and I would go to each site and we would sit in on the weekly meeting that resident services and property management had. They were site meetings, maintenance was there as well. And we would kind of teach them how to meet with each other, how to talk about the things they needed to talk about, what questions to ask, right? So reminding, if you're wearing the glasses of resident services, you're going to ask different questions than if you're wearing the glasses of property management. And just kind of noticing that there's some differences. You know, so if you're walking around the property and you see that the gutters need repair or cleaning, it's kind of nice to say something. Can't hurt. Just like when they see that a resident is in need and they let you know, okay? So I'm going to pass it on to Zahra to talk about external.
All right, so, is your next slide? All right, so this is really the bread and butter of the work. This is the finding the resources, the making community partners, the bringing people in to help volunteer and do the wonderful work on the property. Oftentimes, this is also engaging your residents and becoming leaders. There are partners too, internal, external. Sometimes we have residents that visit from other sites to other, that have skills that they can share on multiple sites. Joy, we've seen this. Silk screening workshops, there's all kinds of opportunities. So I encourage people, be creative when you're looking for partners. Think outside of the box. There's a world of opportunities. There's some really great ways to create social capital on your properties. So you want to also, we've talked a little bit in an earlier session about letting residents drive the work. Really important to make sure it's focused on what your residents' interests are. We talked a lot about how we can survey, talk to our residents and let them kind of drive the conversation of what resources, where's the vacuum, where's the work need to stay focused. All right, is anyone familiar with the term asset mapping? All right, I'm gonna have you fill us in on it.
So what we've done in our community is we've looked at all of the different assets that are in a neighborhood, and then we start identifying all of those, whether it's a community garden, a school, any of those components in the neighborhood or community that you live within that creates a positive, healthy component to your neighborhood.
I love it. We also use the term resource shopping. Someone brought that up in a session earlier, making sure that when you send one of your participants to a resource, you understand what that looks like, how people are receiving them, and what it's like to navigate that resource. There's nothing worse than when you send someone to a resource that's not fruitful, that can't help them. So having a really a fluency in understanding how to navigate these particular resources and organizations that we're sending folks to. So important. All right. So how partnerships can benefit our communities. I mean, there's a lot. This doesn't even really encompass, but it's kind of an overarching concept. Big important piece of the work, at least at Child and Family Properties. I always try and do a shout out. Educational supports. Our folks in our communities are far less likely to have access to summer school programming. And so we have a summer backslide that happens for the youth on our properties that don't have that type of access because of how expensive a lot of these summer school programs are. So the big focus for Child and Family Properties, of course, economic opportunities, micro lending, educational and career advancement opportunities, health resources, big time. I heard some really cool stories about dental vans and clinics, health fairs, such an important and integral piece of the work. That's all right. Yeah, volunteers. So just to speak on that a little bit more, sometimes folks don't have financial piece or a lot to give, but are interested in participating. I have experts over here that are really good at leveraging community partnerships and engaging folks that are in different community government organizations. So having regular activities going on at your property, you're hosting those activities, then you're bringing in, hey, I'd love to have you guys table, or I'd love to have you participate in this upcoming event. So you're keeping it going, but you're bringing extra hands in there, extra eyes, and possibly more resources because you're visible to the people in your community and the work that you're doing is visible to the people in the community. Yeah, access to more spaces, big piece. Of course, geographically, I heard someone talking about how community space isn't as comfortable, it's not as inviting, we don't always have community rooms, so it is important for us to be able to expand and to get to know other people in our communities. I always recommend to my coordinators, you want to involve yourself in as much as going on in your community as possible. I can't tell you how many neighborhood associations I've joined. Some of them have been so fruitful and have brought all sorts of things to my properties. Makers workshops, trash collection, garage sales, bike fairs, all sorts of things. And some of them just aren't as engaged or interested in the community, but it's just good to put yourself out there, introduce yourself to school counselors, to people doing the work in your community. The more of your cards that you're handing out, the more likely you are to secure these relationships. And sometimes they're so fruitful that they bring in huge grants. We've seen that at Home Forward more recently, where we're getting youth violence prevention funds. Michael's got that ace up his sleeve too, that are meant to create activities and to generate more engaged youth and engage people on our properties. And the more you're having a conversation about the work that you're doing, the more likely you are to be visible to the people in the community that want to support that work. All right. So that's, I think, kind of speaks to how we create healthy communities. We're building a sense of community. The more we're having these activities, the more our residents are getting to know each other, create social supports, bond around things. Sometimes we're just having a workshop where we're making green cleaning supplies with Metro. But it's a really great opportunity, even if you just have a handful of people joining. Even these little groups that you do are meaningful to people, and sometimes it's the only time that they get to engage. If you're, especially in our vertical villages, folks can get really isolated in their space, especially in a post-pandemic world. So it's important to just keep engaging and keep up with the work. And we're supporting the work of our partners, and we're connecting folks with the community resources. You guys are all doing this. It's good work. Do you want to click on our next slide? This is you.
So tell me, what are some successful partnerships that you've had? Anyone? Yeah.
Working with the Oregon State University Extension Office to come out working with OSU Extension Office to come out and do food preparation, dietary needs preparation for senior folks, or having a STEM program through OSU, that type of thing.
OSU started our cooking classes at the Ritzdorf Court many years ago. They would come with all the supplies and they would do cooking classes. And to Zahra's point, there'd be like maybe 5 or 10 people, and that is successful. Cooking together and having something small and intimate is a wonderful thing to build community. I highly recommend reading The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker. You'll never have, you will have better parties at home because of it, and you will be better resident services coordinators because of it. She teaches you what is a gathering and how do you bring people together and what exclusion can do to make somebody feel included. So I want to put a plug out for that. It's called The Art of Gathering, and her name is Priya Parker. Priya Parker. Anyone else? What partnerships have been very successful for you?
I had a group of therapy dogs visit one of our properties, and it was just really neat because a lot of people aren't able to have their own pet or animal at their home, and so it was just really nice to see them just be able to hang out in the community room and pet some very nice therapy dogs. The organization was called Fetch. It is from Eugene. Friends, I don't remember, it's an acronym for something with dogs. So yeah, that was a really neat experience.
When I was helping Home Forward with relocation for a building, or I should say remodel of a building, we had the llamas come. Do you remember Rojo the llama? Now it's Napoleon. The llamas, man, they're awesome. What'd you say? Baby goats, that's a good one. When I was working at Home Forward, I created a partnership with Growing Gardens, and they did community gardens at all the buildings, the bigger buildings. It was awesome. Anyone else? Partnerships?
Last year, we started a partnership with Portland Public Schools where we have a really large population of Mandarin speakers in one of our buildings. And so I partnered with one of the elementary schools that is a Chinese immersion school. And my seniors who speak Mandarin go and have conversation time with the kids who are learning Mandarin. And Ride Connection provides the transportation, so it's a 3-way partnership.
Wonderful. Are there any other burning ones that you want us to know about? So we'll do 2 more.
So early on, starting as a resource coordinator, I had no idea what I was doing, okay? Just full disclosure. But one of the things I was told is, Joy, go out and get into the community. Because I used to teach, I felt comfortable in that, so I went to the school districts and introduced myself to the counselors. I found out all the schools. Once I did that, I planted the seeds. This is a story that I got a lot of no's. I got a lot of, so we can't help you. The kids that leave, I serve over 1,500 kids on my one property alone, okay? And they were getting into fights and the parents, so I'll be brief. One of the things was, I planted those seeds. A year and a half later, because I left my cards and because I kept constantly every 3 months following up with those counselors and principals and vice principals, I was referred to, I work in the city of Fairview, but I was referred to the city of Gresham and then met a group of people for youth violence. Because of that relationship, we then were provided a $25,000 grant. And I was able to throw 3 months, a lot more than that, but share also that money with other Home Forward properties. It's so important to build and not be afraid to just go out into the community and knock on doors. And you may get, it's just like sales, you may get 100 no's. But let me tell you, my property now, people are actually coming out and want to help. And I'm able to pay those residents to do jobs on the property, build a garden, provide basketball, sports activities, et cetera. So that's my story. Get out there and do it. Get out there.
I appreciate that. It's awesome. That's awesome. You wanted to say something, and then you. No, the person behind you, and then we're going to move on. Sorry.
Okay, so many of us know Meals on Wheels, and it's very, very critical for a lot of our seniors to be able to extend their budgets to a point so that they can actually feed themselves. I think that's probably one of the most important programs that I do for my senior complexes, so that at least we know they're getting that one meal, and they're getting that eye-to-eye contact to make sure that those people are not so completely isolated.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Hello?
Oh, I'm sorry. We also have a food pantry that does DoorDash for people that supply food boxes. So they'll just deliver.
Okay, I'm going to have to make some more room for more things. So there's two people over there. We're going to get to you, but you do DoorDash?
Yeah, the fish food pantry that we have in Roseburg. The fish food pantry in Roseburg got a grant to be able to supply our people that are homebound to be able to get food boxes delivered right to their door.
That's awesome. I love it. Okay, I got two people. One was burning, and one I didn't want to disappoint. So you'll be next.
We have cafecitos. It's a group of residents that get together. They do exercises, they cook, and then they have resources we bring any resources that they want to know about. And also we have promotoras, and it's like an extension of resident services because we can't do much sometimes. So they help us. It's our another extension of resident services.
Thank you. Promotores is what we call community navigators or health navigators. In Latin countries, promotores are what that is called, and frankly, we took that without using the name and giving them credit. So I do want to say that out there. Yeah.
Comcast, actually. They have their sales reps that come out to the properties, and they will sponsor events. So they've done like a bingo night at my properties. They bring pizza, they bring all the prizes. And while they're there, they talk about the Affordable Connectivity Program. And a lot of their reps are bilingual, so that's beneficial as well. So Comcast.
So I'm glad you said that. I want to say that when I was at Reach, there were only 23 people that worked there. And so when we would have a staff meeting, we would talk about the vendors, the people who, like our elevator company and all these companies that serve us, they're partners. They're partners to you, like Comcast. Your internet provider, or Roger one of our property management folks put satellite dishes on top of the buildings so that we got income from the satellite dishes being up there, and that income can be used for resident services or maintenance or whatever it is you need it for. So starting to think about who serves your company and what they might do for you, right? So there's some challenges with partnerships, and sometimes the challenges can be resident, they're not interested. Sometimes it can be that you tried something and it doesn't work and you should move on. I sort of have a 3 strikes you're out rule. If I try it 3 times and it doesn't work, I move on to the next thing and I take my ego out of it. We love to work independently, but unfortunately, and that's kind of by the nature of the work, you work by yourself. Property managers are typically like that as well. So remembering that working independently is a muscle you learned, and you can unlearn it. You can ask for help. You can find other people who are doing what you're doing. You can connect with somebody in your organization who's 15 miles away doing the same thing you're doing and just have lunch, right? Finding people that you're connecting with can help you brainstorm what partnerships or collaborations you want for your property and how you're going to get there, okay? But remembering that if you are kind of a person who likes to be independent, you might not think to go get help or to find support or work with another nonprofit to get what you need for your residents. There could be tension with property management and with maintenance, especially if maintenance is the people that set up your rooms for you, clean up after you. It's like remembering that you want to keep people informed. Property managers feel they own the building, and that's kind of a good thing because it means they're caring for it. They're a steward of the building in a very special way. Use that to your advantage when it can sometimes be a disadvantage that property managers feel that way, right? So just know that they need to know what's happening on their property. It helps them feel like they're connected to what's going on there and that they're doing their job, which is about security, right? Sometimes language or cultural challenges can happen. So if I have a cooking program at a property where everybody is Somali and they're making hamburgers and hot dogs, it won't work. It just won't. So when you're talking to a partner and you're teaching them about your property, what do they eat? What do they like? What are they interested in? What will you do to engage people? And you need to be there sometimes because our partners aren't necessarily trauma informed. They don't maybe know how to de-escalate a situation or how to bring somebody, you know your people. You might take a person outside and kind of talk to them a little bit or give them quiet time because you see they're overwhelmed by a group like this of all these people, right? So you're the cultural advisor for your properties. And it's an important thing to remember that you impart that to new employees, to partners, and to the other disciplines that work inside your property. We've talked a lot about space, and we've talked about resources. So how to get resources. I do it the way Joy, or I used to do it, I should say, the way you do it. I like to, one of the things a great trick is you go to the property and you put in shoe stores near me. But you have to be on property. You can't do a search as well if you're far away from it. So you have to be kind of in that location, and you can say rent assistance near me, resources near me, that kind of the schools near me, churches near me, and that will help you get a collection of where you're going to go. But I don't know, were you in sales? I was in sales. I started out in sales. And I really agree with you that it is it's like gambling, right? When are you going to get the cherries, right? How many quarters are you going to put in order to get the partnership that's going to work for you?
Your best advocate resident is going to be your source. There's always a source on the properties, usually more than one, but residents have all the aces up their sleeves, especially geographically, because so many resources are geographical.
Absolutely. Thank you.
When it comes to partnerships, though, I feel like accountability is like a culture. Coming from like Douglas County that's really rural, we don't have a lot of resources, so we have to be able to depend on our other agencies to help us out in the way that they promise they're going to do it. And I would expect the same thing from our partners to be able to hold us accountable for the things that we say. So it's kind of one of those things where you have to have trust and you have to be able to help each other.
You also need an MOU. Yes. Okay. You need what's called a memorandum of understanding. So we are not going into that because that's a whole class all by itself, and I don't want to confuse the issue about what it means to just partner. But you might have strategic partnerships, so your organization with a school. You might have your property with so your organization with a school system, a property with a school that's right next to you. Does that make sense? They're different. Either way, you might want to have a memorandum of understanding. And what that says is just what you were describing. Home Forward's going to do this. Portland Public School is going to do that. This is what we're going to do together. And this is when it's going to be done by. So it's not a contract. So you're not bound to it. It's not legal. But once you sign it, it really feels like people know exactly what their role is. And again, role clarity is the most important thing in our work.
Next slide's a 10-minute breakout.
Great.
All right, folks. We're going to talk a little bit more at our tables about the joys of the work. What really sparks joy for you in the work, what you see residents benefiting from. So you've got some blank paper in the center of your tables. I recommend writing some stuff down because we'll do a roundabout share with everyone in about 10 minutes. Joys of the work. Man, are you all right?
Now I'm so hot.
That's what
So hot now. I feel my head needs to pop off to let air in.
It really went from
Yeah,
kind of
cold to hot.
uncomfortably cold.
Yeah, to super hot. It's hot. You have 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes. So I want to bring you back into the center of the room. I want to make sure we have time for questions. Come on back. I tried a Kebmo thing, it didn't work. All right, let's have you come to the back to the center of the room. Wonderful. Thank you. Just finish your thought. Thank you so much. So, what'd you talk about? Who wants to share? Raise your hand. Why do you do this? The joys of community service.
So I guess on the joy side, this was just a real success of information sharing that I was able to be a part of between property management and operations at my organization. We were able to, well, we located an opportunity through, I think, either the health department or CDC for 4 additional free COVID tests per household. And we were able to help just a ton of residents sign up for that the last few days. I wouldn't call that a partnership. It's pretty one way, but we partnered with our residents to create a safer future for a lot of our sites.
When I was at Home Forward, I was called the bedbug queen. And part of what I learned as the bedbug queen is integrated pest management. Integrated pest management is the epitome of what it means to partner internally and externally, right? Because you have to make sure as a resident, you know how to take care of your unit, your property, to keep it safe. Maintenance, property management, the people who schedule for pests, exterminators to come in, all those things, it's a lot. It's a huge amount of collaboration. And it was incredibly successful to be able to get in front of it rather than constantly be behind it, right? Anyone else? The joys, why do we do this? I'll have you go and then you.
Our table talked a lot about the joy of mutuality in helping folks learn about resources in their communities and build connections, and simultaneously learning about new resources and making new connections themselves. And also just watching people celebrate wins in their everyday life and watching residents grow over time and being able to celebrate that with them.
Something that my coworker and I talked about was that our supervisor would tell us that that every program needs to have an ending, because then people feel really accomplished. So we always try to have a celebration or a party at the end of whatever the programming is. So like at the end of a cooking program, we do a cooking class where the kids make food and then they invite someone from their family and we have like a big family dinner. Or at the end of bike camp, I print out a quick little certificate on Canva that shows how many miles they rode that week. And the coolest thing was when I gave a kid a certificate for spring break bike camp, he was like, "Oh, that was 5 more miles than last year. I have it up on my fridge still." And he had kept the certificate. So just little stuff like that. And then it turns out that like when you do those kinds of things, people have more positive memories of the event. They remember it better, and they want to do it again. So celebrating at the end of programming.
So celebrating wins. I love it. Attending is a win. What else? What'd you talk about? Food. In terms of what? Who is that? You're freaking me out, man.
We talked about food and just that it's kind of a universal way to celebrate. And so anytime we have the opportunity or ability, whether we're providing the food or reaching out to community partners who are providing the food, how do we gather people and pause from what's sometimes very serious and challenging work to just laugh and celebrate and be part of the community with our residents.
Thank you.
The other thing that I'm going to add to that is that, yeah, we're just sitting down and eating, but at the same time, it's a relationship building. So it's an opportunity for the residents to see the maintenance people and the manager and all the other staff just on a personal level. And it's the relationship building that goes on with the food.
Okay, what I'd like to do now is open it up for questions. I want to take the last 10 minutes, and if you have any questions about partnerships or collaborations that Zahra and I can answer, we'd like to do that. So any questions, comments, additions, things we missed? I love to be wrong. I learn so much when I'm wrong. When I say I'm wrong, and I love it, we're opening a can of worms. You're scaring me.
So we recently have run into a lot of problems with our management. I'm looking at this list of things they're supposed to be doing, and one of the things that we can't do a lot of these things anymore because they require an ROI, a release of information, and it's becoming like the standard in a lot of management companies. So like we found out like a month ago, or something happened a month ago, and we just found out about it, that a kid fell off one of our balconies, and nobody told us. Another resident like passed away, and the whole family moved, and we didn't find out. So it's like they can't tell us stuff anymore. So I'm like jealous of all you guys with your really cool management parties and stuff where they tell you everything. But I don't know. We don't know what to do, how we stay in the loop with the ROI thing.
What company are you with? What Rose? Oh yeah, right. I heard about that. Yeah, I heard about what happened with Rose CDC, and my advice. So what they're talking about basically is third-party property management has made a decision in their purview. So Quantum has made a decision that you have to have a release of information in order for property management to talk to resident services about anything. Anything. Okay? It's actually the most extreme of all the ones I've seen, the stories I've heard, in all the years I've been doing resident services. Okay? So, my suggestion is to go talk to your asset manager, because they create the contract with the property management company, the external property management company. And your supervisor in resident services, whoever is the highest in resident services and the highest in asset management, need to talk to property management company, that third-party management company, and have it in the contract that you're allowed to talk to each other. Once it's in the contract, you don't need an ROI anymore. Okay? So, but you have to contractually force them to do it that way. I don't know why property management has made this decision. They do not hold in confidentiality in the same way we do as social workers, okay? Because the information we're handling can be about mental health, about health often, right? It's different for property management. They need to let us know so that we can serve them. So this is very, very serious, and it deserves a lot of attention and time. So I do want to make sure we bring it up, okay?
That's great to know that, to include that into the contract, because the thing that we're dealing with is like DHS has their own 3010 release that even though I have through my agency an ROI, it doesn't matter. It's different, and so having it in the contract could trump everything and should all include, yes?
Yes, but not with DHS. So DHS is not property management, okay? You can't do that with DHS.
But they're calling us to intercede for that client, and so that's hence, you know, we have that. They won't recognize our own.
Ah, interesting. Did you have something you wanted to say?
I had a question.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if anyone's ever dealt with this before, but we have third-party management, and they've requested to take a pause on our team meetings, our weekly meetings. So I think it's just reached a point where they're tired of hearing us not really call them out, but call them out. You know, the properties are failing, so I would just want to know if anyone had any interactions like that or any, you know, experiences like that.
So I think what you're saying, correct me if I didn't catch it perfectly, is that they don't want to meet with you anymore in the weekly meetings, and what they're saying instead is kind of fix it yourselves. And part of it is the properties aren't doing well, and so they're not, in the way that you put it out there, they don't want to take responsibility for what they're supposed to do around that. So again, you, as resident services coordinators, when it comes to third-party property management, you have to think about your sphere of influence. What can you influence and what can't you influence? You can tell your boss to talk to your asset manager, but your asset manager is the influence with third-party property management companies. They're the ones that will be able to help you. Your resident services boss can't do anything either without the partnership of asset management.
And it's hit or miss what kind of buy-in you have from asset management and how invested they are in services.
She's amazing, by the way, and they pretty much just treated her the same way. Like, we're not going to meet with you. She's been trying each week. So I think it just falls on the management.
Yeah, I mean, I can't, even with our internally managed sites, I can't say that we don't fall against a wall of silence as far as communication goes and interest in engaging with services. And it's really unfortunate because it can have a deep impact. I think the best tool that we have is to really immerse ourselves in the community to where we know more than they do. And that means walking a property, being at a property, and that's not always possible, especially, you know, depending on space. But it's hard. It's hard. I definitely would look for community leaders that can help with communication and information sharing. Yeah.
When you have a third-party property management, I see you, I'm going to do her, and then you, and that's it, last one. When you have a third-party property management company and you're contracted with them, they work for you. They work for you. So if you're telling me that they're not meeting with her, then do an RFP and get a new one.
We've only been with them for 4 months.
That's very bad sign. That's a very bad sign. Yeah. We're going to do 2 more, and then we're going to end.
So I have a question from the chat. She asks, what does it look like to support our property management when dealing with scattered sites? My folks are not centrally located, so I would like to make stronger connections in those areas.
So scattered sites was my background because, as I said earlier, I provided services to 77 scattered sites in Buckman neighborhood and 3 buildings in the Buckman neighborhood. And I think then this goes to what we were talking about here as well. Individual property managers can be nice to work with and easy to work with. And if you go in and you use your skills as a good listener, you'll hear a lot. So when I walk on property, the first place I go as a resident services person is property management. I go say hello. How are you? I've gotten hugs from property managers more than resident services because you all see me all the time. But having a relationship with them and realizing how much they care about their property is an amazing amount of power that you have just given yourself, okay? Because they need to talk about their job and their property. And that's how I do scattered sites, is I use property managers as my cultural advisor, my best friend. They're my partner. They know everything I do. They know what I'm thinking about. They know what I'm planning and plotting and how I'm going to do it and when I'm going to do it and why. So that's a really good way to get a pulse on scattered sites. There was one more. Yes, there you are. Thank you.
So we had a lot of struggles with the management and resident services for quite a long time. And we brought Fair Housing in to do a specific training on just the ROI. And we spent like several hours really going through it and really clarifying what they could and couldn't do. And it really has helped us dramatically. It's helped us create all new policies and really working with those components. But it really does make a huge difference when you bring in that mediator to help you with that piece of it.
And do you have third-party property management or? Yep. Not it. She said not anymore. I'm going to put a plug in for that one. Not anymore. We're at time. I have to stop now. All right, thank you so much. Thanks,